In this video, I just want to help in particular with explaining the active and the passive tense in English. The active and the passive is very, very typical in English. It's a very fluent structure and it's very, very important. It's very simple, but sometimes people are not aware of the importance and the structure. So basically the active is the typical structure in English. It's the subject, the verb and the object. For example, I drink the coffee, and then to create the passive, we change the position of the subject and the object. So the passive sentence is the coffee. It's necessary to introduce a verb to be, the auxiliary verb. So the coffee is, and the participle of the original verb, drunk by me. So to repeat that example, I drink the coffee is the active. Then to create the passive, we change the position. The coffee is drunk by me. It's a very, very important tense. It's very common and it's very impressive when you can use it correctly. Now I want to show you the grammar explanation on my screen. So here on the left, you can see the website for me is really important and really good. It's the British Council website for grammar and it has a lot of information. It's very informative and it's very useful. So this is the explanation of the grammar concept, the passive, and I just want to read first. So the first question is, do you know how to use the passive voice to change the focus of the sentence? So the purpose of the passive basically is to change the focus of the sentence. In my original example, I drink the coffee, the focus is maybe I, but when we change the position, the coffee is drunk by me, the focus probably is the coffee. And that's really the intention and the purpose of the passive. So you can see here a few examples. Look at these examples to see how the passive is used. A lot of olive oil is produced in Italy. So oil, we have olive oil and we have Italy. So this is probably the verb to be plus the participle. So this is the passive. To create the active of this sentence, we would say Italy produce a lot of olive oil. But the passive structure is a lot of olive oil is produced in Italy. So it's very interesting. But the focus of this sentence probably is the olive oil. Okay, that's the reason we have the passive structure. The second example, this book was written by Angela Davis. So we have the auxiliary verb to be plus the participle written, and that's already the passive. So the active is Angela Davis wrote this book, and the subject in that structure, the focus is Angela, but in this passive structure, the focus is the book. And that's really the big difference again between the two sentences. The third example, the suspect, in relation to the crime and criminal, the suspect will be released. So tomorrow, so that's the future, but it's also the passive, the verb to be in the future plus the participle. And that's an example of the passive in the future. So the focus of this sentence is the suspect, but if we create the active, the tomorrow, the prison will release, or the police station will release the suspect. So that's a difference between the active and the passive. And the final example, this product has not been tested on animals. So we have the product and we have the animals, but we have the verb to be in the present perfect plus the participle. So this is definitely the structure of the passive. And if I just return to the previous page, I think I lost it. So that's another example of the passive. And here you can see the verb to be plus the participle. So it is the passive and the active of this sentence. The scientists have tested this product on animals. I think that might be another possibility. So you can see it's tricky, but that's a maybe more complicated structure at the end. So the active and the passive is very important. Here is the grammar explanation. So we use the passive voice to change the focus of the sentence. So it's really important. My bike was stolen. So that means the focus is on my bike, and the active, maybe somebody stole my bike. So that's the active. Somebody stole my bike. And to create the passive, my bicycle was stolen. It's not necessary always to say the person. Okay, here somebody stole my bike is the active. So you can see that's a very good example, and the focus is on the person. Okay, here is the rules or the instructions when we use the active voice and the passive voice. So to use the passive, when we prefer not to mention who or what does the action. For example, it's not known, it's obvious, or we don't want to say. So that's really the time that we use the passive. The second possibility is that we can start the sentence with the most important focus. Okay, and that's probably the big use of the passive. So when you want to start the sentence with the most important topic, sometimes you need to create the passive structure. Okay, the structure to make, how to make the passive, you can see here, we use the verb to be plus the past participle. So always we use the verb to be plus the past participle, but it's possible to change the form of the verb to be. It's possible to past simple, present simple, past continuous, past perfect. And this table is very, very good. So I'll show you this table. We have the present simple, present continuous, past simple, past continuous, past perfect, present perfect, and future simple. So let's look at the examples. Aliola is made from oil, garlic, and salt. So you can see here it's the verb to be in the present plus the participle. So aliola is made from garlic, oil, and salt, and that is very important. So it's the verb to be plus the past participle. The present continuous, the verb to be is in the present continuous. So the hall is being painted, and that's the participle. So that's a really good example of the present continuous in the passive this week by the painter, but it's not necessary to say by who. Okay, and again, the first sentence, aliola is made from oil, garlic, and salt, and it's not necessary to say the person in those two cases. Okay, the past simple in the passive, you have the verb to be in the past plus the participle. So John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. So that's a really good example. Again, it's not necessary to say who the person is that has done the action. It's not necessary. Okay, that's the big part of the passive that's important. The past continuous, the verb to be, were being, because it's plural. Okay, so the signs were being, put is the participle, up is the preposition, last week, and that's a really good structure of the passive in the past continuous. Very impressive. And in exams, this type of material and this type of structure is very, very good and good quality and very impressive. So I recommend that you probably try to recognize it and you try to use it frequently. The next possibility is the present perfect. So here you can see the verb to be, have been, and then the participle grown. So again, it's another difficult structure, but this is the present perfect of the passive. So oranges have been grown here for centuries by farmers, by people, by the citizens, but it's not necessary to say by who. Okay, but here's a very good example of the present perfect in the passive. Okay, again, we have the past perfect. So when he got home, when he arrived home, he found that his flat, his apartment, the verb to be in the past perfect plus the participle of the next verb, burgled. And the verb to burgle is like to rob the house, to rob the contents of the house. When the person enters the house and takes the contents, robs the contents, that's the verb to burgle. And the person is a burglar. Okay, you can have a burglar alarm as well, which is another name for the security alarm on the house. Finally, we have the future simple in the passive. So the work will be is the verb to be in the future. Okay, future simple. And then we have the participle of the verb. So the work will be finished next week. So that's a very good example of the future simple. Now we can look at the exercises. So this document, this page from me is very, very good quality because it's a really useful website to learn very clearly the correct English grammar. And for me, it's an excellent website. So I recommend that this website you use frequently if you can. So let's look at the grammar test one. You can see the Egyptian pyramids is maybe the subject or the object, we don't know. So it's the Egyptian pyramids is the focus of the sentence. Thousands of years ago, probably by a lot of people. So it's related to construction, related to built. And because it was constructed by other people, we do not need to say who. So let's see, are built thousands of years ago? No, because it's not the present, because ago is the past. Being built is not possible because we need the auxiliary, has been built, had been built. So that's not possible. Were built is possible because it's the verb to be plus the participle. And the verb to be here is in the correct form of the past simple. So that's the past simple in the passive. The next exercise, your letter is maybe the subject or the object, we don't know. But in this situation, it's the focus of the sentence. So your letter something within is like dentro in relation to the time, in Spanish dentro. So you have a capacity, you have a limit of the time, and you must send the letter within 28 days. And your letter will be answer. This is a possibility because we have the auxiliary verb to be in the future, but answer is not the participle. So this is definitely not the passive. The second possibility, will be answered, is a real possibility because it's the verb to be in the future simple plus the participle. So that's definitely a strong candidate. And the third example is will answer. So this is the verb to be, but it's the future simple of the verb to answer. Okay, so it's not the verb to be. It's simply the verb to answer in the future simple. And for this reason, the correct answer, I think, is the second one, because we have the verb to be in the auxiliary plus the participle. The third example, chocolate, something for over 4,000 years, and the verb is to produce. So chocolate has been produced. Again, we have the verb to be. So this is a candidate, but no participle, because the participle of produce is produced with the D. So this is not possible. The second one, is being produced, is not possible because the verb to be is not correct. It would be is being in the present continuous, but this structure is not correct for the verb to be. So the second one is not a candidate. And the final example, has been produced, is a very strong candidate because has been is the present perfect of the verb to be and produced is the participle. And for this reason, it's the correct structure of the passive. And I think that's the best answer. So chocolate has been produced for over 400 years by the citizens, by the workers, by the company. But again, it's not necessary to say exactly who. That's the rule in the passive. Okay, so number 4, we have 8 questions. It's possible we have some incorrect, but we can try. And this is question 4. So I don't know who something might bike. The focus of this sentence probably is I, and the negative, I don't know who. We have stole. So this is the past simple. Is stolen is a structure of the passive. Was stolen my bike, but this is a trick question. So we need to be very, very careful because number 2 is possible because it's the passive, and number 3 is the passive. But this sentence, it's not the passive. This is the active sentence because the focus is I. So this is a trick. You need to pay a lot of attention in exams, and this is a good example. So for me, the correct answer is just the past simple because it's a normal active structure. Okay. The next one is a different question. So my car is the focus of the sentence. My car is being repaired. So this is the present continuous, is being, with the verb to be plus the participle. So this is definitely a candidate. The second one, is being, is not possible because is being is not correct structure for the verb to be, and repair is not the participle. So the second option is not possible. The third possibility is the verb to repair in the present continuous. So it's not the active, and it's not the passive. So for this reason, I think the best option is number 1. My car is being repaired this week by the mechanic, by my friend. But again, it's not necessary to say who. Okay, so for me, that fits very, very comfortably, and that fits perfectly. So I think that's the correct answer. The next one, not enough of our rubbish. So this is maybe a complicated beginning to the sentence. The subject is rubbish. Recycles, is recycled, is recycle. Okay, so this is a very good question. The verb to recycle, I recycle, you recycle, he recycles. So this is possible, but it's the present in the third person. And here, I don't think it's appropriate. The second one, is recycled, is the passive because it's the verb to be plus the participle. Okay, and I think that could be the best candidate at the moment. And the third possibility, is recycle, is not really correct because it's not the participle with the verb recycle. So this explanation, and for this reason, I think it's the second answer. Okay, 2 more. The fire service still, which means they continue. Okay, so the fire service is the focus of the sentence, like the firefighters, the fireman, the firewoman, still wasn't put out the fire. So that's the past of the verb to be plus the participle. So this is a possible passive structure, but it depends on the sentence. The next one is the verb to be plus the participle. So this is a definite, another possibility of the passive. And this is the present perfect in the verb to put. So it's not the auxiliary to be. So for this reason, it's not possible. Well, this is the trick again, because the original sentence is not the passive. The original sentence, I think, is the active. And because it's the active, it's the verb to put in the present perfect. Okay, so for me, I think that's the most appropriate answer, because the actual sentence is the active and not the passive. So the fire service still haven't put out the fire. And that's the typical phrasal verb with the fire. To put out the fire is to extinguish the fire. Okay, so really good. And then the final one, so you can see the little tricky detail, the underground connection. So this is the subject, or maybe the focus of the sentence. The underground connection, something, when I moved into the house, is still being built? No, because it's moved into the house in the past. So we probably need a situation here in relation to the past. Was still being built. So this is the verb to be. In the past continuous, was being. That's the verb to be plus the participle. So this is definitely a candidate. And the adverb still is possible. That's no problem. Was still building. That is the past continuous. So it's different. So I think this is the passive structure, I think. And I think the second one is the correct answer, because it's the only really candidate which is appropriate in the sentence, because it's the past and we have the auxiliary verb to be plus the participle. So for me, that fits very well. And it's no surprise the last question probably is the most difficult. And of course, I think we may have some errors. It's a possibility, but let's check the answers just to be sure. And we have 8 from 8. Phew, thank you. So it is possible we have some errors, but that's very, very good. So that's the first exercise. And very quickly, we will do the second exercise at the bottom of the page. And you can see, again, it's the active and the passive. So all our lamp, in the plural, lamps. Lamp is the typical object in the bedroom, in the room, like a little light, something from original 1950s design. Okay, produce is the present. I produce, you produce, but the lamps produce. It's possible, but in the context of the sentence, it does not make sense. Is produced from is another possibility, but we have the verb to be as the auxiliary plus the participle. But because the lamps are plural, I think the third option is best. All our lamps are produced from original 90s, 50s designs. So for me, because it's plural and it is the passive, the third option is appropriate, because we have the auxiliary verb to be plus the participle. Okay, so for me, I think the third option is the best. And we can do these very quickly, I suppose. So mistakes have been made, are being made, have been made, but we're working on a solution now. So because it's the second clause is now, I think the first sentence is probably the past. And for me, I think instinctively, it's have been made, because this is the auxiliary verb to be, have been in the present perfect, plus the participle of the verb to make, made, made. And this is the reason the third option is better than the first option. So for me, I think the third option is more appropriate. The next question, someone is the focus of the sentence. The wallet is another object or subject, we don't know, and left the wallet at, for location, the reception. Someone had found my wallet and left it at the reception. For me, that's a definite possibility, because this is just the past perfect of the verb to find. I find, you found, someone had found, and normally we use the past perfect before another action in the past simple. And you can see the verb to leave is constructed here in the past simple. So for me, that's a big possibility, the first option. The second one, someone had been found. No, because this would be the structure of the passive, but in this sentence, I think it's the active. Okay, someone is the subject, my wallet is the object, and for this reason, I think it's the active. And for me, it's correct, had found. And again, the third possibility is not correct, because we have the extra verb auxiliary to be plus the participle, which is the passive, but the actual sentence is in the active. Okay, so the first one I think is correct. The next one, my phone, is maybe the subject, it's maybe the object, we don't know yet, but it's the focus of the sentence. My phone, something last week, was being fixed, was being fixed, was fixing. So the first one is the verb to be in the past continuous plus the participle. This is a passive option, the first one. The second one is not possible, it's not correct, because fix is the infinitive and we have the verb to be, so it's not appropriate. And the third possibility is the past continuous of the verb fix. I was fixing, so it's not the passive. So for me, I think the first option is the best. My phone was being fixed by the mechanic, by the technician, but it's not necessary to say the technician. It's not necessary to say the person. For me, the first option is the best. Okay. The next option, a lot of time wastes on pointless meetings in this company. So the verb to waste, but it's usually the person. I waste time, you waste time. So for this reason, I think it's the passive sentence. So we need the verb to be plus the participle. And the second option, we have the verb to be plus the participle. So for me, this is definitely a strong candidate. But the final option is the verb to be plus the present conjugation of waste. So it's not the participle. So for me, the second option is the best. A lot of time is wasted on pointless meetings. Pointless is a very good adjective with no benefit. The trip was pointless. You had no benefit, no advantage in this company. Okay, 3 more. Your application is the focus of the sentence. Is it the subject? Is it the object? We need to check. Okay, will be review. So this is the verb to be plus review, which is just the present or the infinitive or the base. So it's not the participle. So this is not possible for the passive structure. The next one is will be reviewed. And you can see my beautiful construction has collapsed, but we will continue because you can see the most important is the text. So the second possibility is will be reviewed. So this is the extra verb to be and the participle. So this is definitely a candidate. And I think this for sure is maybe the best option at the moment. And the second one, or the third option, is just will review, which is the verb to review in the present, in the future, simple. So it's not the passive. So for me, the second option is probably the most appropriate and the best. Okay, so 2 more. Someone is the focus of the sentence. It's possibly the active, it's possibly the passive. We need to check. Someone saw my talk, my speech, my discurso in Spanish, was seen, had been seen at the conference. So maybe I think it could be the active, because someone is the subject, saw is the past simple, my talk at the conference, and recommended me as a speaker. So for me, I think that's definitely a candidate because it's probably the active structure. The second one, was seen, is the verb to be plus the participle. So this would be appropriate in the passive structure, but I think the sentence is an active structure. So for this reason, I don't think it's possible. And again, the third sentence is the verb to be in the past perfect plus the participle. So it would be possible in the perfect structure, but the sentence is the active. And for this reason, I think it's just the simple, the past simple. Someone saw my speech or my discussion or my talk. Okay, and then the final example, the suspect, again, it's related to the crime and the police. So the suspect is the person that people believe may be involved in the crime. So the suspect was caught. That's a possible structure for the passive with the verb to be plus the participle near the French border. So probably this is a passive because the police catch the suspect. But here we have the suspect was caught by the police. And again, we don't need to specify the police in the sentence. So for me, the first option is a definite possibility. Were caught is possible if it's plural. So we have the verb to be as the auxiliary plus the participle, but this would be appropriate in the plural, but it's not the plural because it's suspect. And then the third possibility is just the past simple of the verb to catch, but it's not correct because the police catch and the suspect was caught. So very, very good example. And I think that is the correct answer. So just let's check. Again, I think we might have some problems, but no, we have everything correct. Okay, good. So for me, this website is very, very useful. It's very good. And little by little, it's a very good document. It's a very good foundation to scan and to see all the different topics. This is just one area today, the passives, and it's really useful. And every Monday, we have specific webinars dedicated to grammar classes. So yesterday we had a grammar class, and next Monday we have another grammar class at 4 o'clock. It's a webinar. Everybody is welcome. There's a small price of €2.90 if you want to attend, and that's a possibility for next week. So hopefully you enjoy the grammar, but I recommend that you probably try to continue studying and continue to read this page and continue little by little to practice different parts of the grammar website. It's very important, and I think this website is very useful because it's very clear and you have a lot of exercises as well. So now I'm going to finish, and I'm going to fix my wonderful screen. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the Facebook page. I hope you enjoy YouTube, and I hope you enjoy all the material. And thank you so much for connecting. And please leave a comment if you have anything to say. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.